I will preface this by saying that this is not my writing. I knew that my great-grandfather Peter Whitehead was an explorer and had made several trips to the Arctic. From what I can ascertain from his journals, he made an attempt at the North Pole in 1907, but was unable to complete his journey. My grandma asked me to help her with some of his notes and journals that she kept. She thought that they might make a good buck. I found his journal entries from a trip in 1913, and I don't know what to think of it. I have not told my grandma at all about it, and I don't know if I really should. Please let me know what I should do with these. October 19th, 1913. Good evening. We made it the furthest that we ever had yesterday. Based on notes we had from Peary and the guides, the estimate we had perhaps 2 or 3 days until we reached the North Pole. But I will not be making the whole journey with the rest of the lads. Cabot's leg is soured from the dog bite. The dang idiot thought to kick at a couple of dogs who had begun to scrap. Captain Turner sent me, Salem, and Cabot back to camp to try and save Cabot's leg. Salem doesn't think that we can. The toes have gone black, and the wound reeks in the worst way. I dearly hope that we can get Cabot back before the rot takes him whole. We have need to ration the oil as to keep warm in the night. Warmly, Peter Whitehead. October 20th, 1913. Good evening. Today was truly God-forsaken. Salem and I have been trading Cabot from sled to sled to ease the burden on the dogs. We lost the tracks that we had laid only a few days before on our way to Camp 3 and made near to the Hartford crevice. The team strayed too far right on me, and before I had the mind to correct them, half the team was over the edge of that empty black abyss, and the whole sled was fallen. We had to cut the lead dog free before the wretch took the whole sleigh over. Matka was the best lead dog that we had, and the whole team will sorely miss his leadership and strength. I didn't see where he landed, but even now I can hear him crying and whimpering from that icy pit that is now his tomb. His cries are so baleful and solemn, I can't even bear to think what the sort of pain that he's going through. Salem checked Cabot's wrappings when we settled in the tent. Cabot's leg is gone black and sour, the smell absolutely dreadful. I begged Salem to put the wrappings back on as soon as he had removed them from the darkened, ruined limb. The stench was so foul and loathsome, it permeated the tent in a miasma of disease. Salem said that the leg will most certainly have to be taken, and we must hasten our pace to Camp 3. On the one hand, I hope that we can get Cabot to the camp on time, and yet on another, I hope that we do not, for he has cost me a dog and, more importantly, another chance at the pole. Warmly, Peter Whitehead. Postscript. It has been several hours since Atka took his terrible fall. I can still hear him baying and whimpering in that ice-born crypt that he had fallen into. I cannot bear to hear him suffer like this at all, cold and dying of some painful wounds. I had gathered up some pythons and some good rope, as well as some flares. I endeavored to reach him and put the poor wretch out of its misery. I am leaving this journal in Salem's hands in case I do not return. October 21st, 1913. Good morning. I'm writing this from the warmth and safety of the tent. The snow has whipped itself into a frenzy, a hard poor little tent, our flaps and our shutters with every gust of a frigid northern wind. I went down into Hartford Crevice last night. My pythons and rope held true in that most ancient of ice. As I descended, I could hear poor Atka whimpering and crying, like a child crying for his mother. Every inch further down that pit of Hades, his cries got louder and louder, as if he knew I was coming to end his misery. I climbed for perhaps 9 fathoms before my feet hit the icy ground. I struck up a flare upon reaching the bottom, and began the search for the fallen sled dog. It was a little trouble to find the crimson frozen spot where Atka had struck the floor of the crevice, yet I could not find Atka. His cries echoed through the crevice as if God himself had fashioned the pit to reverberate all noise throughout itself. The walls of the crevice were fashioned like that of a hedge maze, filled with nonsensical twists and turns so that I could not readily find my canine companion. Atka had left a trail of dark crimson blood on the ground where he had dragged himself along. I followed the trail until it seemed to disappear into nothingness, as if poor Atka had been scooped up by some giant hand. The entire time that I searched for Atka, I could hear him whimpering and crying, but I could not locate him though. At one point I thought to myself that I was very close to him. His crying rose to screaming as if he were aware of my true intentions. So savage and feral did his voice become, that he sounded less canine and more like his savage, lupine cousins. Upon using half of my flares and becoming lost several times, I endeavored to return to the surface and to the warmth of my tent. As I traced my steps back to the rope that I had laid, I could hear a scraping noise accompanying the braying and screaming of Atka. As you know, I am not a feeble man, but in that moment, I will readily admit that I feared that crevice more than I had ever feared cold or hunger. It sounded as if some great creature was lurching through that frozen maze in pursuit of me. It seemed to me that it was very close to me at some points, though perhaps that was simply a trick of the acoustics of the crevice itself. Perhaps something divine smiled down at me, for after fumbling through what I was certain would become my own mausoleum, I found the rope and pythons and rose from the crevice. All night we sat and listened to the screaming and scraping coming from the crevice. And the longer that we listened, the more it seemed as if it were not a dog in pain, but the howls of a frozen hell coming to swallow us up whole. We can still hear the noise coming from Hartford Crevice, and I will be glad when we can rest without fear. I am setting off now. Warmly, Peter Whitehead. October 21st, 1913. Good evening. The dogs were most perturbed from the noise coming from the crevice, and were very apparently ready to make haste from where we had made camp. We rode hard south, expecting the sounds emitting from Atka to lessen as we put distance between ourselves and the crevice. But after half a day of hard travel, the sound was as omnipresent as the night that we had spent on the lip of Atka's tomb. The peaks and valleys of this frozen hell echo in a bizarre alien design. After resting for lunch and a break, we rode even harder for Camp 3. Salem and I said little to each other that did not pertain to Cabot or the dogs. I estimate that we are 60 miles or so from our camp last night. Yet, even now as I sit in the comfort of my quilt and furs, it sounds as if Atka is laying directly outside of the tent. Neither Salem nor I will sleep tonight, and although we said nothing of it, Salem and I have both brought our rifles into the tent. Cabot has not woken or stirred since last evening, but Salem confirmed that he is still breathing. Warmly, Peter Whitehead. October 22nd, 1913. Good morning. We are perhaps 75 miles from Camp 3, and the warmth and shelter that it provides. Salem and I are in agreement. We will ride as hard as possible today. We will not stop until we reach the camp and the fellowship of the other men staying there. The screaming and braying are incessant, as if an eternal wind sustains the voice that emits the most awful of noises. I must be brief as we have a long day ahead of us. Warmly, Peter Whitehead. Good afternoon. A great deal of progress has been made towards our destination. Atka's screaming dogged at our heels as we pushed further south. All at once, the noise abated and changed directions, as if whatever was chasing us turned and made haste back from whence it came. Even as I write, I can hear the screaming and wailing fading away into the north. We are not far from Camp 3 at this point, and I will be surely glad when we get there. Warmly, Peter Whitehead. At this point, my great-grandfather's entry is slow. He talks a bit about Cabot's leg needing to be amputated, and doing some chores around the camp. The entries are few and far between during this time of the camp, and he does not discuss Akka or the noise that they fled from anymore. But the last entry in his Arctic 1913 journal gave me chills. I don't know what to do with the journal itself. If I should send this to a college or a museum, or if I should destroy the journal and try and forget about what I read. Please let me know what you think. November 15th, 1913. Good afternoon. Captain Turner and the rest of our party have not returned. Even if they are trapped in a storm and were forced to wait things out, they should have made their way to us by now. The ice is hardening by the day, and if we do not set out soon, we will be trapped here in the north until the spring arrives. Several of the men wanted to set north to find the missing party, and although I'm ashamed to say it, Salem and I convinced them not to go. Salem and I have convinced most of the others to make our way south to the vessel that is waiting for us so that we might return home in time for the Yuletide. Hopefully, we will be on our way in the morning. I have yet to hear any more strange noises coming from the north, but I know that if we stay the winter here, it will not be the cold that takes us. Captain Turner and the rest of our comrades are most certainly departed from us by now. I pray that they have reached the pole successfully, even if they are not given the chance to see home. They could see that most desirable of goals. I also pray that the most gentle of cold that stripped the men of their lives, for I cannot stand to bear the alternative. If we leave for our southward bound vessel tomorrow, this shall be my last entry, and one that I am very glad to make. Cabot remembers nothing of the journey, and both myself and Salem have agreed not to speak of it ever again. He has even gone so far as to burn his own journal. Yet I cannot subject myself to the destruction of my own. Vainly so, I suppose. Warmly, Peter Whitehead. Now, I'm not really too good at making these posts, but my uncryptids. Now, it sounds funny for me to say it. I'm not joking though. I am dead serious. I hunt Wendigos, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, robots, werewolves, and vampires, and of course, your good old elves. Now, Bigfoot and Yeti aren't your typical 8 feet to 10 foot tall, hairy ape-man. They are in fact much more intelligent and can talk. They really talk when you force them to. But other than that, they are fast and monkey-like. Basically, they climb trees. Anyways, let's move on to the vampires and werewolves. The vampires are not humanoid people with fangs and say, "I want to suck your blood." They are hairless, gray, fast, four-legged creatures that eat human organs instead of blood. They sometimes do eat blood to help them get around, but they prefer the organs. Werewolves, on the other hand, are not half man, half wolf. They are actually a species of wolves. Makes sense. Except, they are smart, and I mean smart. They stalk for humans by following their specific prey home, and then it attacks them in the house and they clean up pretty good. Wendigos are what all people say they are. A cannibalistic creature. Except, it brings their food to it. By using similar vocal sounds, they make it sound like someone you know or care about, up to the point to where you'll go in the forest and try finding them. Well, guess what? All you'll find is your death wish. Let me tell you who I am now. My name's Chris. Not Christopher, not Christian. Just plain old Chris. I am basically an athletic 6'7" man that is pretty strong for the job. Hold up, I need to go. I have a call about a vampire attack down in Tennessee. I drove up in my good old GMC truck and I found the house. Except the house was destroyed. There was a dog laying in the front yard, gone and chained. Poor thing didn't get to breathe its last breath. I made my way up to the porch stairs. I knock on the door just to show some sympathy. No answer. The door was unlocked from the inside, as if someone was trying to run but didn't make it. I opened the door only to be blocked by a body. Well, that is what's left of it. It was mainly just tissue with a torn open stomach, and all the organs missing. The heart, the lungs, the intestines. I pushed the body out of the way and I went in only to be greeted by it. A female vampire. Like a mosquito, the females are the ones who eat the organs and blood. The males only protect the nest of baby vampires from predators, such as Bigfoot, werewolves, and other vampires. I take out my pistol and I aim for the head right as the big female launches at me. I pull the trigger. See you later. I get covered in the vampire's remains and I just showered. I kid you not. Taking out werewolves are fun. The day after that, I took out the vampire. I was given a call about a pack of werewolves in the area. It seems like they're after deer, and this time they gave me a partner. Some woman in her mid-20s named Jenny. I pull into Jenny's driveway to pick her up, because she apparently doesn't like driving due to what had happened to her sister. Her sister hit a Bigfoot that was walking in the road, and was killed as soon as the Bigfoot punched the front end of the car to a dead stop. Jenny came out of the front door of her house and walked down the steps and hopped into the passenger seat. "What are we going after?" Jenny said. "We are gonna mess some werewolves up," I said. "Oh, that sounds fun," she said sarcastically. "Then hold on to your buttons because we are going for a long ride," I said back. We set off to the area where the werewolves were spotted the most. We were halfway there. That was until the werewolves found us. 10 p.m. at night, they stop us in the road. It's always good to save on gas. I grabbed my pistol from my sleeve and I started whistling. Mary Had a Little Lamb, and I rolled down the window, pointed my pistol at the werewolves. I start thinking about which one is the alpha. Wolves can't hunt or protect without the alpha, which means that if I kill the alpha, I kill the others. I shoot a werewolf in the head and the others back away. Looks like I got the right one. I take another one out just to get the others scared, and they run away. There was 5 of them, and now there is 3. The 3 will not be able to hunt without a plan. The planner is usually the alpha. The other werewolf that I disposed of was the only female. Looks like that was easy, Jenny said. Yeah, a little too easy, I responded. It's been 5 months since Jenny went missing. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Jenny came up missing ever since we had encountered those werewolves. I have no clue what took her or what had happened to her. I believe that the werewolves took her. I don't know how though. I thought they had all perished from starvation. She's gone. I don't know what did it to her, but she's freaking gone. I'm upset more than ever. I'm going after those werewolves. Wish me luck. The werewolves didn't take her. A Wendigo did. I believe the Wendigo used my vocal sounds to trick her into going to its cavern. And you know what happened. It is heartbreaking to see Jenny's head at my front door. It was a warning. A Wendigo was warning me to back off. But why? How? Wendigos don't ever show warnings like this. They just take, not admire. I must find this Wendigo, and I gotta get rid of it. So, good news and bad news. The good news is that I found the cavern leaking to the Wendigo. The bad news is, there's no Wendigo. I am putting all my other calls on the back burner just to find this one Wendigo. I will make his pain slow. You can end a Wendigo, but not with silver, but with a stake. By stabbing the Wendigo in the weakest part of its body, the neck, it will put the Wendigo out of its misery. But you can also end it by stabbing the heart, which will cause slower pain and will be much more satisfying. Most of you call me a psychopath. My response is, you're right. I am a psychopath. I'm a psychopath who wants revenge over a Wendigo that hurt my friend. Jenny meant well to me, and she would do the same if I were the victim. I don't care what you think of me, for I too will be with Jenny. Once I've gotten rid of the Wendigo and the other werewolves, I'm going to end it myself. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Me and Jenny were married. She was also pregnant with my child. I didn't want to tell my boss because he would have ended her himself. He would have thought that I would leave my job just to spend time with family, which I would. I hear someone outside. It sounds like my boss. I'll keep you updated. It wasn't my boss. It was the Wendigo. It found me instead of me finding it. I went to its home, and it went to mine. It followed my scent. I opened the door to find this 8-foot-tall ugly thing, with his bloody claws slashing at my face. I have a slight scar, but other than that, I'm fine. I ran to my basement where I kept a lot of my stakes. It followed me as I ran down the stairs. It was admiring me. It was watching how fast I was, how intelligent, how confident, how angry. I grabbed the biggest stake that I had, and I ran back to where the Wendigo was waiting for me. I swung at it, only to put a scar on it. You see, Wendigos can heal other parts of their body except the head, neck, chest, and heart. I swung at its chest, so now it has a scar and it will think about who put that scar on it for the rest of its life, just as it did to me. I also stabbed it in the hand, when it was swinging at me, that is. It let out a screeching cry and busted down my door and broke through my window. It was gone. I had a chance to end it, but I didn't. I couldn't. I was healing my wounds from the day of the attack. I still have the scar on my face. I still have its blood on the stake. And it still has my blood on its claws. I let my boss in on the situation, and he said that he would give me a week break with $3,000 put into my bank account. He was sorry for my loss, and said that he will send other hunters for the Wendigo. I told him no. I wanted it. Hey guys, it's been a week since I've typed out my last post. I almost forgot about it. Anyways, my boss didn't listen to my request for letting me take out that son of a gun for myself, and he sent 3 hunters after it. They all died, except for one. Some girl named Ashley survived with a limp leg and a broken arm. She said that the other hunters were torn apart. One decapitated on the spot. The other was food. I told my boss, but he didn't listen. He killed those hunters and not me. Those hunters were actually better trained than I was. They were stronger, faster, and much more smart, and they were in a group. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here getting beaten up by a Wendigo that ended the love of my life. That son of a gun is gonna get it. I did it. I ended the Wendigo. I made it suffer like it did to Jenny. Now it's only a matter of time until my boss finds out about me and Jenny. I was sleeping when I was woken up at 3 a.m. My boss was calling. Hello? I said with a tired voice. Chris, it's me, Steve. I have a case for you, he said. Oh yeah, my boss's name was Steve. Kinda classy, but he likes the name. What is it? I responded, rubbing my eyes. It's a pack of elves out in Alabama. I bought you a plane ticket and I got you a new partner. His name is Alan, he said. A long pause broke out. I'll be there, I responded, ending the call.